All right, Bosh, we're back. Another episode of Squeeze the Neck podcast. And I said Bosh today because I've had a few DMs saying I've said boom recently when I used to say Bosh. The fans have spoken. But today I'm in Southwark and I've got with me George Mckenzie. Thanks a lot for doing this, mate.
Thanks for having me.
So we were just discussing what we was going to call you beforehand in terms of trainer or longevity expert, whatever you want to be. But maybe you can explain it, what you do.
I think trainer's good.
Trainer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personal trainer by trade.
Join the club, bro.
Yeah. Branched out on like my niche into something more of a longevity style of coach. So it's kind of like, how do you train for long-term health? How do you keep yourself performing well for as long as possible? And that's generally what I tend to work with clients towards. So yeah, that's it really.
That's it.
We can go deeper into that.
we're going to. I was going to say that's the end of the podcast, guys. Let's dive into a bit of you and how you come across it, because I believe you had injuries and stuff like that yourself.
Yeah. So I mean, I've done sport for years and years.
All right, let's go back further. Sorry, I'm giving you too many questions, but let's go back. You're from South Africa originally.
Yes, from South Africa.
Take us through your beginnings, mate.
From South Africa, grew up there. You do a lot of sport there. Pretty active. Like school, you have to do sport. My parents, my dad played hockey quite competitively. I picked up a hockey stick at like 3 years old.
3 years old.
So I've got a picture of me with a hockey stick at 3. Definitely was playing hockey for a club from like 4 years old.
4 years old,
4 or 5.
And I'm assuming.
So it's a long.
Yeah, I'm assuming South Africa we're talking field hockey, not ice hockey.
Field hockey, yeah. And then through that time in South Africa, it was like hockey, cricket, swimming. I played baseball for a while. I tried basketball. Just every sport, sport you can think of, basically.
Nice. And what time frame are we talking about, mate? When was you born?
I was born 82.
Okay.
So this would have been like mid-80s, all the way in through the 90s. Picked up skating before I left, so I was a rollerblader.
Oh, okay.
So I did a lot of aggressive skating, so there was a lot of jumping, spinning, slamming, bending.
Great for your knees, right?
Yeah, hurting myself. This is leading somewhere, by the way. Because I think all of that, like all of the sport and then the impact sport of skating, really did a bit of a number on hips, knees, back. Yeah, was quite rough. So that was like my time in South Africa. Once I came to the UK, I didn't do so much sport. It wasn't as easily accessible at the time.
Okay.
So coming here, I ended up in the gym, and that's how training, like personal training, came about. I did skate a bit, and I realized how much the gym could actually help.
Okay.
With that at the time. So that's kind of how I got interested in that. And then my next sport I decided to pick up was weightlifting.
As in Olympic style?
As in Olympic style weightlifting, which then did more of a number on my knees, my hips, my lower back, now my shoulders, my wrists, everything got smacked. So in terms of history of training and in terms of injuries, I was, by the time I hit my mid-30s, I was sore.
Yeah. So how old are you now? You're 82. I'm assuming 42 because
42,
you look great. You look younger than me, bro. So it was like, you're saying mid-30s. Was that when you noticed the injuries, or was that when it just started to come to a point where it was like, I'm in trouble?
I started noticing it early 30s.
Really?
Like
okay.
Small little things here and there, and then push through them as you do.
That's what you do. Exactly.
And when you do any kind of thing where it's quite a rough sport as well, you're just used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like weightlifting. It's like, I'm going to be sore. It's fine. And then it got to a point, I couldn't like lift my arm over my head at one point.
Oh no.
And you can't. Then it's like I can't squat anymore. Like you can't. How do you train? I can't squat. So it reached a point in kind of mid-30s where it was just like, bam. Oh, this is it. This is it now. No more.
You're just old now. You've got
no more stuff.
Yeah. And what's the deal with like hockey? Because obviously weightlifting, there's weight divisions, but is like hockey one of them sports where you got to bulk up and stuff?
I would say probably not bulk up, but it's going to benefit you to have some, some degree of strength. Like this is going to go on 1,000 tangents because my brain likes to fly around a lot.
Good, mine too. So let's have it.
But just I'm going to go into that question there about hockey and training and bulking up. You train in the gym in terms of what, like you're doing in terms of building size or strength for your sport.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing hockey, field hockey, you don't really have. You want to put on a bit of muscle, but if you've got too much muscle, it's going to lag you, right? You're gonna struggle to have the speed and the agility and things a little bit more the more you bulk up. So you don't want to bulk up too much. So it does need strength. You're going to need strength. You're going to need like resilient joints. But how much is
it's too much, and almost for your genetics and what's best for you, right? Some people are naturally bigger. Yeah. But what's the deal with hockey? How long's the game?
I don't know now.
Oh, really? Is it one of them? You played it all your life and you've been hitting the head so much you don't know?
But I stopped playing when I moved here. So I stopped playing in like 2000.
Oh, okay.
99, 2000 kind of time.
Okay.
I can't even, I can't remember. I have a memory of it being a 30-minute and a half.
Okay.
But it might have changed. Like the rules, I started watching again 4 or 5 years ago a little bit. And I was like, the rules, they've all changed. Like there's so many little things and the equipment's changed a little bit. And
it's a long time, isn't it? 20 odd years,
yeah.
Nearly 25 years, isn't it, really? But like, it was on the Olympics, wasn't it, the other week? So as we're recording this, we're sort of coming towards the end of August. So the Olympics had just come into an end, or finished a while back. But I saw a bit of hockey, and it was one of them that was a little bit. I didn't know you played hockey at the time. I might have watched it a bit more in prep for this. But it's like, I think it's quite a hard sport if you don't know what you're looking at to sort of keep up with, even though it's quite simple in terms of they've obviously got to score a goal. But
get the
ball in that thing. There was a lot of things that I was a bit kind of like, what the fuck's she doing there? It was a girls' game. England, I think, was playing Spain, maybe, I don't know. Great Britain. And but you don't even
quite
know.
There's like some really nuanced little rules to it.
Okay.
But again, I don't really. I'm the wrong person to ask right now because it's also not something I deal with any people that play hockey now.
It's not a big sport, right, in terms of worldwide?
I don't think so. It's not something I come across players of very often.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in that arena, so I suppose that affects it.
What level was you at? Was you sort of like...
I was young, so what was I, 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
At that level, I was pretty decent for the age, yeah. So
what I mean is, was the Olympics ever in sort of your field?
No, not that. I mean, you don't know at that age, but it was kind of like county level, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, okay.
So
good level,
provinces or whatever. So, it was decent enough to play and play against other high-level people.
Yeah, I got you. So you've landed in England, you're doing your weightlifting, you got to your mid-30s and you're injured.
And I'm broken.
Take us from there, mate, because this is where it gets interesting. Just for context as well, I kept seeing you on Instagram and things, and I just thought, like, it's perfect for, like, not only what I do, but, like, the people that listen to this and stuff, like martial artists. I don't know if you've ever come across martial arts people. Yeah. Everybody's fucked up, and it's like one of them things. It's almost like you've got two camps from my experience anyway. There's like people that are sort of like constantly trying to fix their injury, and I kind of fall into that where you want to be perfect all the time. And if you notice like one of your little toes is like not firing as best as the other one, you want to fix it. And then there's the other end of it where they've just got like two knee replacements, the hip like don't work, and they just it's like a badge of honour. They're like, I earned that, and like for me, I don't want none of that shit. So that's how I found you, man.
Yeah, I don't think you need that. That level of pain and discomfort. Let's get to this. Yeah. So where do we go from me being injured? My injuries were like chronic things, not huge major things, but chronic. So like my knees hurt all the time. My knees hurt for like 4 or 5 years, like every day. Get out of bed, they'd be sore. They'd get a bit better when I moved them and so on. And squatting. Up to a certain weight was fine, and then suddenly it would be like pain. Have to have knee sleeves on, have to be like something to hold them to make them feel a bit better. So they were just not in great shape. My shoulder I had a tear on one of the tendons. I had a break on the top of the humerus. I had a crack from bar hitting it.
Oh, right, proper
which
injury,
I ignored.
Yeah. Okay, no.
So like there were like little injuries, but most of it was like niggles. My hip, again, massive inflammation on my pelvis, like from weightlifting. It's just true. So it's like all of these things that were compounded. As I say, nothing huge, but compounded injuries of like repetition or use injuries. Right?
And to the point where it's affecting your life. It's not just a training thing.
Yeah, it was affecting everything because it just like trying to pick things up, carry things, put things in cupboards. I couldn't lift my arm above my head at one point. So when it was up here, it was painful. So like, you know, it starts to restrict you hugely. Running, I couldn't run. If I ran, I'd get like this massive pain in my hip, and there would be like 3 days of it being sore. So I stumbled across, at this point, Ben Patrick, who's knees over toes guy. And this is where it takes that kind of turn for me.
When was this, mate? How long ago?
This must have been 2020, early 2020.
So right at the start, when he was like not very known at this point, right? Because I think the pandemic sort of time was
that's
like when he spiked like a little.
I think people at home and the online side of training came really big. So because through all of 2019, I couldn't, like, my arm was screwed, my knees was like, that was the worst period, was like the 2019 going into 2020. So it was around that time that I found Ben and started implementing some of his stuff.
And what did you do? Did you do his app, or did you get in touch?
No, do you know what? I just, being a trainer and being, you know, I fundamentally believe, like, going to the source of stuff and getting help with stuff is hugely important to doing it right.
Yeah.
But I'm also a stubborn trainer. So I just went on YouTube.
Okay, yeah.
Go on YouTube, found stuff, found videos, and started implementing little bits of stuff. I'd already been a trainer for years by then, and I studied Poliquin really early on. Okay. So the structural balance side of it, which is big on Ben's thing as well, and his inspiration from Charles Poliquin. I'd already had a bit of that kind of knowledge, so I felt I could implement it, and I did, and it started to work pretty quickly on me noticing more comfort level.
When you say quickly, how long are we talking? Are we talking a matter of weeks or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. For my knees, again, as I said, my knees didn't have any major issues, so they were just discomfort, stiff, sore all the time. But that, I'd say a couple of weeks, they were already starting to feel better. Now, there is a little caveat here, because I was not in the gym because of COVID. So how much was I pushing them at the time? And so how much was it also giving them that little break? Yeah. I don't really know.
Truth's probably in the middle, right?
So
probably a bit of both.
As everything, it's nuanced, and there's no like one direct answer. But yeah, a few weeks, they started feeling a lot better already. And equally shoulder stuff, because, I mean, his stuff was really focused around kind of lower body. I mean, his knees over toes. His stuff was all knee for his recovery. But like then also taking that stuff and thinking about it, adding it to, I was seeing physio at the time for the shoulder, like just at the start. But I changed some of their stuff and added some of Poliquin's stuff in there. And that started to improve, like really, really quickly. So I kind of I was like, I want to coach this guy's stuff. Like, how do I do this? And it took a while, because I couldn't, at the time, he didn't have a system where he was teaching and getting coaches in.
Was he just on YouTube?
Not that I knew. He was just on YouTube doing his own stuff. Right. You know, there was some other people that he was doing it with at the time. Derek, Mr. Infinity.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He's yeah, I know. Mr. Infinity's a guy. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Slim black guy who does jumps and whatever.
It was amazing. Also, and he's like mid-40s.
That's what I was gonna say. He's a lot older than he looks.
46. Yeah. I mean, he was also kind of doing stuff, I think, with Ben at the time. My timeline gets a little bit jumbled, because there was a couple of years there through COVID where everything's a little bit messed up with all the lockdowns, and I was come back in the gym, then back stuck at home, then back in the gym. And then just watching, you know, and trying to learn this stuff on YouTube. So implementing that all like changed everything. Like.
And what was you doing with this? As you said, you're not following a program. Are you just kind of fiddling and fighting about with things?
So again, just from years of being a coach.
Yeah. So you know when to rest. You know the rest days.
I'm when I coach now as well. It's like, and it had already started edging that way. It was like, listen to your body. So I don't program in rest days as such. I will do something every day, just about. Yep. How hard I go depends on how I'm feeling.
Gotcha.
I've got to the point where I'm not striving to be like a competitive athlete. I go with how my body feels. So I did that as well.
And that probably elevates you more, just by what you just said, right? In terms of you probably make better gains by not striving for something, and you just listen to yourself.
Yeah, I think like if you come down to like gains wise, if I wanted to suddenly go, I want to squat 2.5 times body weight, or I want to, you know, I want to look like, you know, a physique model, and I need to put on another 5 kilos and lose, 5% more body fat. It's gonna require some serious like programmed thing. Not gonna get there just by fully listening to my body.
No, right. Okay.
But I don't have like as lofty goals. You know, the goals are to like feel good, look good, perform well, be able to do everything I want to do.
Okay.
And in that, listening to my body just is definitely gets you there a lot quicker, and a lot safer from my experience. Again,
that makes sense.
Everyone's nuanced. It's really difficult with this business because, you know, I can say X, Y, Z, and it's not going to play out like that for everyone.
No.
So there is that little bit of nuance to stuff, and you know, the industry wants. Again, we're going off on a tangent, but the industry wants candy, right? And social media is big on that. It's like the one thing to fix this, or the 4 exercises that are going to solve this problem. And that's fine because for a lot of people that will work.
Yeah.
You know, those little things do work, but it's obviously not quite that simple. So training, listening to your body. Okay, I'm going to come back to this now. Let's go. Let's try circle back.
Stay on a line.
Let's try circle back around because this is going to be very boring for people. So doing all that stuff really helped. So then I obviously decided, well, let's try and coach this. And it took a long while because it took till about 2022, I think, till I found the actual coaching.
Okay, all right.
Becoming a coach side of it.
And by this time, are you already sort of, I don't want to say fixed, but was you sort of like on the route to being pain-free and all that business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, do you know what? Actually, just before I started the coaching app, I trashed my shoulder again.
Again?
Like, these things happen.
Yeah, of course.
So I did my shoulder again. So I was fixing that at the time, that I just as I started the app. But otherwise, knees were fine, hips were fine. Like that stuff had pretty much sorted out by then. Yeah, I think so.
So you can live your life anyway. You're not sort of waking up in agony every day.
No. By the time I did the qualification, I think I was kind of going, I think this stuff is revolutionary, and there's more to it than just this load of exercises that the community of, like, it's the ATG, Athletic Truth Group, is Ben's thing. It's Ben, and there's...
Yeah, I've been on the app.
I should name check. I should name check everyone. Because
I've been on the app and I've seen it. So it's like, for anyone who doesn't know, there's loads of different programs and stuff now, right?
There are loads of programs on the app, but there's also loads of contributors to that. There's loads of other people that have contributed to, the foundations of the system, rather than just. Some people I meet think it's a bunch of exercises, but it's not. It's really it's a concept of training, and it's developing all the time.
Okay.
But that that concept I saw a huge potential in, so that's why I decided, that's why I became that coach. And then it's like, you go beyond just those programs or just those exercises when you enroll in that coaching program.
Okay.
There's a lot of resources. There's calls every week. There's multiple calls with coaches every week, but there's a lot of resource materials in there that are extremely valuable.
Okay.
Like for coaches, just breaking down like how connective tissue works and the importance of dominance around the connective tissue, as opposed to just thinking about muscles, or it's a big part of it.
Wow. Okay.
So there's all of that in there, and I think then you can implement that into other stuff. So like, you don't see a lot of, say, I'm trying to think of something you don't see a lot of in those programs. Deadlift isn't hugely common.
Yeah.
But you can still incorporate it into the programming based on the principles that they use. And like if I'm training a weightlifter or a powerlifter, they have to deadlift. They've got no choice.
Yeah.
Maybe someone will argue with me on that, but in my mind, there's no choice. They're going to have to do deadlifts. So you can still take stuff out of that's not really in a lot of those programming cycles It is in some of them, but for the most part. So it's a system, right?
Yeah.
So then, like, I learned that system through becoming a coach, and now that's what I implement, and that's how I basically train.
Yeah. So it's obviously not a
longevity.
one-size-fits-all, but
No.
it can be adapted to a one-size-fits-all type thing. Not a one-size-fits-all, sorry, like what's the word I'm looking for? You can adapt it to anyone.
You can adapt it
Yeah.
to anyone. Yeah. I mean, it's extremely good for scaling. You know what it's like for me. What it's really good at doing is balancing out things, because in life, everything you're doing is creating imbalances, right? And especially in modern life, we're sitting down a lot. We're not out and about running or climbing. Like, you know, as a kid, you're out, you're running, you're climbing, you're rolling, you're jumping, you're doing all of these things. As adults, we don't do them. And we probably should. It would probably be beneficial, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah.
To do all of those movements. So what it's quite good at doing, and especially if you look at the again, I'm not, you know, I'm an ATG coach. I just like to say I'm not affiliated with ATG. Like, they're not giving me things to say, or so I shouldn't really be talking about their system, because I'm not a person in a position to do it for their company. But it's I've lost my train of thought now. It's very good at, you know, the early the zero programs, or the beginner versions of them are very good at, like, going, okay, let's look at a human body, and what does modern life kind of seem to have neglected, being strong or being mobile and loose in relation to everything else. And they're very good at just hitting those points.
Yeah.
So for the majority of people, like, doing that stuff is going to, especially if you're not doing anything, it's going to be like,
magic.
So it is a one-size-fits-all in essence like that. But otherwise, it's nuanced. You can adapt to anyone for any goal, and it just seems to work.
Yeah, because the big one he does obviously is dunking a basketball is a big thing.
Yeah.
Can you dunk a basketball?
I cannot. I you know what? I haven't tried in a long time. I used to back in when I was like, you know, 19, 18, be able to get the rim.
Yeah.
But I haven't tried recently. But again, that's not my goal. So I'm not actually working for specific jump ability.
And especially in this country, right? We don't play basketball anyway, so who gives a fuck, right?
It's not a big thing.
Do something worth
However,
doing.
it's a nice challenge. It's a nice idea to see, can I get there?
Yeah.
But I haven't actually tried. I'd like to do that. I might do a thing and I'll film it and then I'll...
Maybe we'll go on this journey together. We both get a dunk going on, because that was always my thing. Like, I could always jump high when I was younger. That was always like you know, when you're using gyms and stuff, and you do like warm-ups and sort of like you put the plyo boxes out. That was always my thing. I could always jump high. So watch this space. Maybe we'll get a dunk challenge between the two of us. We see who can dunk first.
I would be well on that. I think again, his thing was a lot of that, and partly it's the elevation of being able to, but partly it's the ability to withstand the impact of landing, of taking off, of the stop and the go. Yeah. And that's what the training's really about. Right?
Because I follow him on Instagram too, and there was a post the other day. I don't know if you probably saw it. A small black guy who's 5'4" who could like touch the rim with his head. So it's like, you know, fucking insane. I've
seen these things in my life. Yeah. It's just been like, it's an anomaly. But I think you can actually really get good ability. You can build really. I
think mechanics play a big part, don't they? Like what you said about the balance side of things.
It does.
If you balance things out, I think that that can play a big part. You know. I was going to ask you a question about the balancing things out as well. Actually, like in terms of obviously, like we play sports, like you said, not just in life, but like my background as a teenager, I was boxing, so I spent a lot of time one way. And you don't really get problems when you're young because you're young, right? But then as you accumulate things, and I found there's more different variety of things I did is when the problems started cropping up. So like when I got into grappling and it's different things for your body, I started learning handstands.
But this is older, right? This is when you're a bit older.
It's a bit older, but still relatively young. I'm still early 20s. Do you know what I mean? So
but you've gone out your teens.
Yes, okay.
I tend to, again, like everything is my opinion on this. I tend to find up to like 16, 17, it's not going to make much of a difference from when I see people doing loads of really nuanced movements and different things. When you start getting into your 20s, it starts to, because you start to do less of it anyway when you're kind of in your 20s. I think in your teens you do more, so you are moving more. So then you start to create heavier imbalances as you get older. But it's also because you probably become more, maybe less active, but maybe not. I think, as I say, I tend to find once you get out of your teens, it starts to slowly creep in. Because otherwise you'd say like, again, I'm always trying to watch my words. You would say, oh, less movement's better because you're doing all these new things and these different things and it's causing problems.
Yeah.
But I think it is just that, your body starts to not bounce back as quickly.
Yeah,
So
I
it
think what
becomes
my
like-
experience is, what I find, it'd be interesting to hear what you think about it, is like where you become more adapted to something, like for instance a one-sided sport like boxing, or it could be tennis or whatever, right, where you're sort of one-side dominant, football, soccer, whatever, is it's when you go from that to try and add more stuff to it is when the problems start to, because you've already adapted somewhat to the first thing, right? So it's not necessarily like, when we're saying age, in my opinion, it's not age like you're old, it's more like your training age has got to a point where you're like, you can't, it's not that you can't adapt, but you have to be careful how you adapt, because you've already adapted one way. And that's when I think I started getting little niggles and problems, because it's like you said earlier when you were talking about your injuries. Mine weren't catastrophic injuries. I didn't fall out, I fall out of a third-story building or something, or have my knee blown, touch wood. But it was more, that's sore today. Yeah. This is a bit sore today. My wrist hurts. Yeah. But like you said, you're young and you just like, whatever, I'll get on with it. And you do get on with it.
And you do, and when you're young, it's like, oh, it hurts today, and then it's fine the next day or the day after.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas,
yeah.
When it's chronic and it's just there for like months on end, it's less of a thing. That balance, like training age is a big thing. It doesn't have to be, none of these things like age, general like life age, training age, the sports you've played, they're going to affect things, but I think they don't have to affect as much, and this is where the balance comes in, as we let them. But yes, 100%, if you do a one-sided sport, or any sport for that matter, for a long enough time, you're creating an imbalance, because no sport is balanced.
No.
And if you're not training that away, over time it's going to start causing little problems, which can either stay as little problems or they can get bigger and bigger. And guaranteed, as you age through life, little problems are going to get bigger and bigger if you don't address them. I mean, it's a sad fact.
It's a sad fact.
I like to say age doesn't matter. It's not about age. Again, it is to some degree. You're not going to be doing the same stuff at 90 that you're doing at 30.
It's just can't, for many reasons, right? Not even just
depends what you're doing at 30, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but even just on like a hormonal level, things are gone, aren't they?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? So
there is a limit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is an age limit on things.
For now, but we live in strange times, mate. So
yes.
by the time me and you hit our 90s, we might have we might be able to nip down to the local Boots and take a pill, and we're ready to rock and roll again.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. They say I wouldn't want to live forever. Probably wouldn't want to live forever, but the longer you want to live, you want to actually feel good through that time, right? Because if you're not,
yeah, oh for sure. Well, an old teacher of mine, I don't know, he said once that like, and when I say teacher, I mean coach, right? He was like, he said like the day before he dies, he wants to be able to walk around, talk coherently. It's not about how long he lives. And when I heard this, I was probably 24, so I was like, oh, fuck it, whatever. Yeah. But now you go, I'm with him. I'm 100% with him. That's exactly where I want to be. I want to live as long as I can, living, basically, right? Because, we've all been out and about where you see the old person being pushed around by the carer. That don't seem like a fun way to fade out, does it, to me?
And maybe it's unavoidable for some people and in some circumstances.
Well, I'm super hot on it too. I go into the cold therapy all sorts because I've been punched in the head a bunch of times too, right? Do you know what I mean? So if I don't take care of that, that's probably going to bite me when I hit my 70s.
Yeah,
God willing, I'm still
here.
You've
got to do mental training.
You know what I mean?
To be fair, we all should.
We all should, yeah. I think it's the old saying, isn't it, of use it or lose it. It's these people that get to sort of, whatever age, but they retire, they get old quick, don't they?
Yes.
And it's not necessarily an age thing in terms of, I know people that have retired in their 40s and 50s because of their specific job, and then you see them 5-10 years on and you go, oh, what the fuck happened to you? Do you know what I mean? And it goes from there. But if we dive into sort of athlete training, right? Yep. So like we said, if you come from a sport, whatever that sport may be, there's always going to be imbalances, and they're going to show themselves more in an athlete because you're putting so much demand on your body. Is there sort of something you'd look at someone and address them and say, right here? Because what I hear a lot is from the ground up. Is that sort of where you're from?
I believe in ground up. I don't always address 100% from the ground up.
Okay.
But yes, if you think about feet and ankles, that's ground up, right? I mean, that is ground up would be like, okay, what's planted? I mean, it depends on your sport, but ultimately, most of the time, foot's on the floor, that's taking the majority of our stability and our load for a lot of things. So you can argue, address from the ground up. You want to strengthen around your feet and your toes, around your ankles, then go up, I'm talking joints because that's the main breaking points normally. But
I was going to say, where are we going up?
But ultimately, so that ground up from that point, I'm big on. I think yes. My issue with all of these things, issue is a heavy word, but it's like I try and address everything.
Okay.
So yes, ground up is super important, and you can have issues at the hip that are caused from the foot, for instance, and it becomes important. But I think I try and look at everything at the same time. Personally, is how I look at it. Now that does change. So for me, training. Most of my clients are now general population. I have a few people that are athletes, competitive on like a kind of lower level that I tend to work with. I'm just trying to think how to. Yes, so it's nuanced though for everyone, whether they're general population or athlete. I still train them in the same way, same principle. You've got to be adapting because you're making changes to something that they're doing that's affecting their knees can also affect further up, right? So it's just being constantly able to adapt. Then you can address everything at the same time.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's kind of like
an
over-round view rather than just going, yes, I think ground up's super important, but I wouldn't, and again, I'm not saying there's a problem with this in any way. I think this has a huge value to it. Some people are like foot experts. Yeah. And you go to them and you've got knee problems and they start by looking at the foot and I think, that's probably very, very valid. Yeah. But I'm not an expert on the feet and the ankles, so, I tend to address everything.
Yeah, it makes sense. From what I'm hearing from that is if you start working with my feet and my ankles and whatever, and I notice a change, but that by default could cause me a tightness in my shoulder. Yeah, and now I've got to deal with that.
100%. Yeah. Again, this sounds very dramatic because for most of us, it's not like, oh, wow, you've just given me extra range and strength in my ankle and now I can't move my arm because it's...
Now I can't play with myself on a Monday night. But no, it all ties in, and I've experienced a lot of this with different things. Do you know what I mean? With different niggles and injuries, they play a part. Because one thing I was thinking as well when you're talking about that was the barefoot shoe craze, right? A lot of people love a barefoot shoe nowadays, which I've been in Vivos on and off for years and years. What's your view on them shoes to start with? Are they a good thing or not?
I used Vivos for a while. I quite like them actually. I still use them. I've got a pair of boots. Vivo boots, which are for outdoor, the big leather boots. So they're really good for waterproof and mud. So I still use the Vivos. Yeah. I don't train in them because I found that I was doing, at the time I was wearing them, I was doing more weightlifting still, or trying to. So then I was wearing weightlifting shoes a lot in my training. Yeah. So I didn't use them for training that much. But I like them. I think they probably... For me, I wouldn't wear them all the time. I would change footwear a bit.
I agree. That's where I've had trouble before. I'm wearing these now. I think they're called Ultras. And they're
but they're wide toe box.
They're very wide toe box. So I've got wide feet anyway. For instance, I can't wear Adidas shoes because my feet are just too wide for them. Okay. I've played around with loads of things. I used to wear Vivos all the time, but I was running into problems with them because I was wearing them all the time. Yeah. So someone I work with looks after
because they're wide toe box as well.
Yeah.
But not wide enough.
No, they were, but it was more the impact on the crown because one of the guys I work with, shout out David Funday, looks after my body. He said basically to wear them all the time, especially in London, it's concrete and whatnot. And don't quote me on what he said, but it's along the lines of I can overwear them. Do you know what I mean? And I did. So he recommended different shoes, and basically these ones. I'm going on a bit of a rant, but these ones are almost like a trainer, but they don't have much drop and they're wide toe box. So it's almost like you get the barefoot effect in them, but in a trainer. So they're a bit better, and I've been wearing these.
For me, I think the more important thing is the wide toe box than the barefoot bottom bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm coming around for. That's what I think now.
I think, again, nothing against any of it. As I say, and I think if they work for you, fine. But you're not going to put on a pair of normal. They've got so many different versions now. When I bought my first Vivo barefoots, there was 1 or 2
Yeah.
versions of shoe, you're not going to take those and go and run a marathon. Like that's going to,
They was
you're
like
gonna feel
socks,
that.
weren't they, back then?
You're going to feel that.
Yeah.
Like so there are obviously like, you know, nuances to things like that. I walk around barefoot a lot.
Yeah.
I like to just have, if I can,
Nothing.
feet out.
Yeah.
But in the gym, it's a bit more.
Well, where I'm quite
Dirty.
lucky again with martial arts and stuff, dojos, you're all barefoot anyway.
Yeah,
you're not allowed any shoes. So I
Same
spend
with
a lot of time.
gymnastics, which, you know,
Of
I've
course,
started gymnastics really recently.
Brilliant.
And that's again like socks and barefoot.
Yeah. Of course. Where are you at gymnastics wise?
So you mean where?
What gym? Yeah.
It's called over-gravity.
Okay. Where's that?
They are around Bow.
Okay.
So they're out.
East
that way.
seems big for it because I used to go to East London Gymnastics to learn like flips and stuff.
Yeah, and there were some weightlifting clubs out east as well. Like
Yeah, everything. That's what I mean. That kind of culture seems east.
They're about to move though over gravity actually, up a bit more north.
Okay, well that's even
Kind of
worse, right?
northeast.
Jesus
Not
Christ.
far north.
Yeah.
I mean, it's closer to where I live.
Oh, is that right? Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
happy,
okay, yeah.
but yeah, no, really nice gymnastics club, and I think it's difficult. Again, there's loads of tangents here. I do apologize to everyone. The club is one of maybe I think 2 in London that's adult.
Right.
Because gymnastics is typically like kids. So a lot of these clubs are kids only. So it's an adult gymnastics club. They do children's classes and things, but it's one of the few places you can go as an adult to learn.
Yeah.
So that's great, and they're really good there.
That's cool. What sort of stuff are you learning? You're learning like flips and tricks or ring stuff?
Yeah, flips, tricks,
All that stuff.
tumbling work.
Good. And you're going to give us a
Bit
demo
tricky
for
work.
backflip right now or no?
Not on this floor. I'd like a little bit of a sprung
Yeah,
floor,
okay.
thank you. I did actually try on here at one point, but I was like, it's just risky, mate.
It is. I did
so
Vivos
risky.
on concrete a few times just to show off to people. I mean, I was all right, but it's not the smartest thing in the world to do. So don't do that, kid. Don't try this at home, kids. But so if we go from there, mate, like, okay, I'll give you an example. Like, obviously, I'll use myself, but not really myself, if that makes sense. So I do martial arts. I come in, I'm injured. I've always got something going on, right? But I come in, I say to you, like, oh, I don't know what's going on. My ankle hurts, my hip's tight, you know, my shoulder hurts in the mornings. You watch me walk up and down, I'm limping. What's sort of a general sort of starting point? We don't have to get too specific because I've thrown a curveball at you, but like, where would you start me off?
I would have to watch you move.
Okay.
In order to actually do this. What I normally get, so there's a few movements I think can tell a lot about what's going on a person.
Yeah.
And step-ups, which probably, I mean, I try for the Polakun step-up, which is kind of again, it's an ATG thing, knees over toes thing, where it's the heel, slight heel elevated, like the reverse step-up when you're going forwards down. I think that can tell a lot about a person's knee health.
Okay.
Like, if that hurts, you've got limitations. Generally, if that's not hurting someone to do that well and to do it how you want it, like knees in themselves, you can do anything with. So, for anything. So you know, I've got like diagnostic tools essentially. I like to look at that. I like to look at the split squat, the ATG split squat, and see where it's at, see how you move through that, because you can tell again a lot about what's going on with hip tightness and hip strength, posterior chain activation. You can see how, like, if the knee's tight, quad activation, ankle mobility, balance. You know, there's so much going on in the movement that you can almost use that to diagnose anything from the hip down within reason. Like, again, as you say, it's a curveball question because there's no simple answer to it.
But I think
I would probably get you to do some movements, and that would be like step-ups, split squats, depending on how painful things are or how restricted things are, right? So like seeing how your external rotation moves, how your ability to like move your scapula and hold and connect, you know, the two together at the back. And those things will tell a lot about what's strong to what's weak.
Yeah.
It's going to be so nuanced for every person.
Yeah, of course. No, but I think you answered it well. Just get people moving, basically, right, and just see what's going on. Because another curveball I'm going to throw at you here. I do a lot of handstand training.
Yeah.
So I stand on my hands. So my from the ground up is obviously my feet. I'm obviously on my feet a lot more than my hands.
No, for handstand,
but it counts too, right?
So you want to be doing a lot of like, you know, wrist training.
I'll do loads of this all the time, man. Don't worry about it. Nothing stops me doing this.
Well, you know.
It's a terrible joke, guys. It's a terrible joke.
I was going to say, maybe we're at an advantage. Yes. So yeah, then it does. It does.
Yeah.
It becomes like contact points. You know, I love the human body, and I love how it works, and it makes sense to me in a lot of ways. So I can go on huge tangents here, but anything that's making contact with the ground while you're moving is so important.
Because of it affecting everything upstream.
Everything else. Even whether you're on a bench press and your feet are on the floor. So like handstands, 100%. Like your hands, your arms, like everything's important. In a bench press, yes, most of your load is not running through there, but it is to some degree.
That's really interesting.
I've had people like quads have major cramps doing heavy bench press because they're obviously pushing like slightly incorrectly probably. But,
just pussies, bro. We call them pussies around here.
But ultimately, like the things are active. So anything touching the ground in any movement. So bear crawls, whatever you're doing, like you've got 4 points of contact. Overhead press, like you see people overhead press and they're like their waist and below is not really bothered. It's like their legs are everywhere or whatever. Again, not that everyone's going to be mindful or be perfect with their positioning, but like you should be, because what's touching the ground? The weight's up there. The next point of the strain point is like from there to there. So you're going to have breaking points all the way down. So like anything touching the ground, super important.
It's amazingly simple, isn't it? But yet so complex.
It is. I sometimes also worry. I get very obsessed with perfect movement or perfect positioning, and it doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't. And length of levers is different. Me and you are going to have different relation of leg length to torso 100%. And all that shit plays into
100%. I think movement in itself is just good, right? So it just becomes complicated. I've got my philosophies on training. It becomes complicated when you start loading heavy weights onto movement, but otherwise movement is good.
Yeah.
Roll around, crawl, lie on your back and wiggle. Like, it's good for you.
Because I think people can sort of paralyze themselves with thinking too much as well. Because I've been guilty of that myself too, to be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? 100%. Like I found different things. I don't know if you're aware of a fella called Ido Portal. So I studied under him a lot. Worked with him for sort of really intensely. It's a name drop because I say him on here a lot, but there you go. It's true, so fuck it. But he's brilliant.
He did some really great stuff.
And I was training with him for sort of 18 months, really intensely, different parts of the world, in person and whatnot.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And I saw him recently in Barcelona, which was nice and hopefully ongoing. And this week, I believe, guys, well, it won't be this week when this comes out, but one of his students, Anna, is on, so that'd be a good one. But we, with the stuff we did, it was great. And it was like you were saying, loads of different things, using different bits and pieces and everywhere. But for me, being quite young and stuff at the time and like just want to train more and want to, I kind of did sort of too much of it. So what Ido preaches is a lot of like a generalist approach. And I kind of almost specialised in generalism, if you like, in terms of doing too much of it. So like I did Olympic lifting, I was doing martial arts, I did gymnastics rings, I did climbing. But I did them each individual thing probably as much as I would, or as someone who just did that would do, versus...
Well, that's coming back round to your, like, when you're going to go into your 20s and start doing all of these disciplines. It doesn't help when you go at them 100%
no,
each.
I was training like 6 hours a day every day. I'm doing like as much climbing as a climber. Not that I was as good as a climber was, but I was doing as much climbing as a climber was. But on top of that, I'm lifting, I'm doing handstands, I'm doing jiu-jitsu, I'm boxing. And I'm like wondering why I'm tired at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And that's when things start to... I don't want to say go wrong on me like it's a sad story, but you know what I mean? I started to get problems that I didn't need to have. And, you know, it's, I'm kind of rambling, but you get where I'm coming from, right?
I love a good ramble.
Yeah, we're doing well today with rambling.
Yes, 100%. I think it's also tempting when you're someone who's done a lot of sport and been like hard at it to not go 100% at stuff. It's exactly, you know, I'm exactly as guilty as you are about that, and that does, it causes. It's just you just don't have enough recovery ability in your body, and that's what it's ultimately really about, right? Recovery.
And what you end up doing is training, like sort of game planning your training. So versus like if we want to go and lift, for example, Olympic lifting we spoke about, we're going to lift hard. You want to be able to get a proper session out. You want to be completely there, right? When I'm Olympic lifting, all I'm doing is Olympic lifting. Whereas I was kind of, I'm Olympic lifting, but I'm also doing jiu-jitsu later and then boxing after that. So do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're not in the not in the zone. You're not 100%
and that causes problems too.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose for even just from the point of view of like, you need those are all sports, right?
Yeah.
They're not. Like I build this definition between training methods and skills or sports. Right?
Yeah.
Those are all sports, right? So you need mental like concentration to do the skills of those sports. So as you say, the minute you're loading on all those others, it's dangerous for you as well, because you start to not have that kind of clarity or the focus on what you're doing. And all sports have risks, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, so does the gym, but like anything that you're either on your own in a sport, you got weightlifting or sprinting or whatever, or you fighting or team sports and things like there's a risk factor, and if you're not at your best, you increase that risk factor.
Yeah.
So like you're just creating those problems as well. Like it's a different kind of problem, but you're still creating.
Of course, and the mindset behind it too is like if we're using, again, I keep saying Olympic lifting, but I think it's relevant. If we was to use Olympic lifting for me to help with my martial arts, for example, or your hockey, whatever we're doing, the mindset to use it for that goes out the window a lot, because like a lot of the time, as I said, I'm in an Olympic lifting gym and there's a guy similar size to me and he's clean and jerking 120. I'm going to clean and jerk 100. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In reality, I should have probably been doing 60 to make it smooth and do it right. And then like now when I go to what I'm using it for, I've got the benefit of it. Is that something you've encountered too?
100% for myself and for clients and for people.
Yeah.
I think it's an ego gets in the way sometimes, but it's not always purely ego, because that makes it sound kind of worse than it is. But I do think it is sometimes that you're kind of like, or you're just like excited, or you just push. The kind of person that pushes yourself, and you need to train for what you need the training for. Again, like you could argue partly I'm got no pains because I don't normally lift quite as heavy. I definitely don't lift as heavy as often. But at the same time, you've got to train for what you want. There's no reason. I have no reason to double body weight clean and jerk, besides ego. At this age, I'm not competing, and it's cool. Yeah, I'd be strong, but I don't. The risk reward isn't there for me.
And also at a certain point, it's quite sad, right? You're sitting in a bar telling your friends when you're in your mid-40s, hey, I clean and jerk that. And looking at you thinking, you sad fuck, you know.
But again, that's just my ego. I would love it.
Oh man, I'm the same. Don't get me wrong. This is me too. But
for me, I'm at for my age, in theory, I'm decent numbers on all those lifts, squats, deadlifts, clean and jerk, snatch. It's good.
But even aside from watching you train, I've only met you today, walking around in here, we're having a chat and whatever, and like you've got like a balance about you. Do you know what I mean? You look athletic when you walk. So what you're doing is obviously doing something, isn't it?
Yeah, so what I've done, here's my secret.
Watch out now.
Here's my secret, I'm actually 25.
Yeah.
I split training into, again, sport and training. So when I'm doing like a lot of this is a very simplified version, but a lot of the time when I'm doing like split squats, step ups, I'm doing like all like external rotations, I'm doing pullovers, all the ATG stuff about that strength through length. That I classify as training. Then I have separate days that are my sport things. So if I'm going to do Olympic lifting, if I'm going to do the Olympic lifts on a day, that is a sports session. That is a different session to a training session. I'm not training for anything in that. That's me using the other stuff to do that.
Same for what you want to use it for.
Yeah, same with gymnastics. Yeah. And I do that with everyone. So like I've got a lot of lifters, recreational weightlifters. Their training is split into weightlifting days and training days.
Yeah.
I just split them in. I don't count the weightlifting days as training days.
No, that's their sport. So if you're with the training, what I'm hearing from this is when I'm doing a training day, it's for this. It's for my vessel. I'm looking after
100%.
this. And then
100%.
So if we liken it to a car, this is a douchey thing to say, but like if your body's the car, you take it to the garage, they do all the tweaks and whatnot, and then on Saturday you go race it and go fucking
100%.
nuts.
Yeah. And I can approach anyone like that.
Because I think that'd help a lot of martial artists. A lot of people I train with, as I said, like the old badge of honor with his bad shoulder and limpy hip.
It doesn't have to be that way. Look, if you're a 60-year-old grappling really hard, your shoulder's going to dislocate possibly. Like, there's lots of things that can happen. It's not like you're going to just be like this amazing, pain-free for life, perfect thing.
But it's the overuse things, isn't it? Like if me and you are grappling, for instance, and I pop your arm and you do my knee, they're unavoidables, you know? Yeah. Whereas but what we can avoid from what I'm hearing and what I'm hoping is that like, the constant, like my knee hurts for no apparent reason, and then
Have you done any of the the ATG, the Ben Patrick stuff?
Quite a lot, yeah.
You find it helps?
Yes, but this is kind of where we're coming with this conversation where you said you use it for that.
Yeah.
I'd get to the point on it where it'd be like, I can do that split squat pain-free, I can do that pain-free, fuck it, let's stick 100 kilos on it. Do you know what I mean? And that's where I've let myself down in the past. And it's not so much I've got injured from it, it's more that I'm fatigued for other stuff I do.
Yeah.
Like for instance, what we're saying, like my game day would be going Wednesday afternoon jiu-jitsu. And I'm sore going in, and I'm already in my brain going, I'll take it easy today. But you never take it easy, because as soon as the 100 kilo guy who's a beginner grabs you, you've got to like turn it on, and do you know what I mean? And it's like, fuck, here we go again. Yeah. And then I'm driving home with a sore shoulder, you know?
Yeah.
But to be honest,
again, that's a common thing. It's not unavoidable. Like, we all do it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I do the same thing, you know. And I say pain-free is a relative term. I don't have chronic pains. Occasionally I do something stupid. I've done that with split squats, where I've just gone too heavy too quickly and been like, oh, okay, my hip flexor's now really sore for like 3 weeks. I'm going to have to like be tender and sort it out, because I've just been, again, it's just been a bit silly. But,
part of the journey as well, though, isn't
it? But ultimately, you just need to be, especially when you're going into extreme ranges. So all of that stuff is quite like long range, around the knee, around the hip. You need to just build that weight slowly. Yeah. And, you know, again, people very similar, I see that a lot, where they'll do a movement, it'll be fine, so then they'll just whack the weight up.
Yeah. And it's not so fine.
But you don't need to, but it's like, what do you need that for? Like, yes, you can do it, but what do you need it for, like, that quickly right now?
Yeah,
right?
well, the answer is you don't, right? And when I've done that before, and I've gone through like AGT, or not even necessarily AGT stuff, but that kind of style of anything. In that, when I say style, I mean that mode of like, I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it to make training's fun, and it feels good, and you leave the gym fucking buzzing. Versus like, how many times I'm sure, especially with the Olympic lifting stuff, how many times you gone into the gym and squatted like a lunatic, got out after and sat on the train or in the car, and you're just like, fucking. Didn't need to do that.
Why do I do this to myself?
Didn't need to do that. You know what I mean? But yeah, there you go.
Every single, I'm just thinking back to training, when I trained for weightlifting. And again, this is just something that also comes with time and knowledge. I was inexperienced at that kind of level of coaching. I was coaching myself for weightlifting initially, training like I was watching like international competitive weightlifters train. Yep. You can't.
No. And the elephant in the room there is, let's be honest, weightlifters at that level, they're not natural either. They're taking some special supplements, right?
I mean,
and they're 25.
A lot of them are.
And they've done it their whole life. And then there's like, you know, a normal schmo who starts in their 20s, not taking supplements, trains other stuff as well. You can't train that way, can you?
So, you know, there's a bit of that going on there. But yeah, it was just, I'm just thinking back on it now. You're making me think, I'm like, I used to always be sore. Sore knees, just all the time.
Yeah.
I'd go home, and every day I would go home and try anything. So I bought these ice compression things. So they have an ice pack in them, and you pump them with air, and they like compress down. I bought these knee ones, and every night I'd go and I'd just be in bed and I'd lie and I'd just be like doing stuff on a computer. I'm not sure they did anything, but I suppose like ice compression. So I mean, it probably did a bit for inflammation and stuff, and it does help a tiny bit. But it probably was actually bad for them, because it stopped blood flow, right, for so long.
Right.
You
need to like help me.
I'd leave them on for like 20 minutes, but you know, who's to know? This is, you know, when you don't know, you got to learn.
That's it. So take me through, like, what's the typical sort of, like, we spoke a little bit about recovery. What sort of recovery stuff do you do around stuff? Are you an ice man? Are you into the saunas, healthy eating? What goes on there, mate?
I eat quite healthy, yeah.
All right, let's dive into that first, actually. Let's get to sort of whether
Quite
it's your
healthy.
diet or what you sort of recommend as a diet. What's healthy to you?
I eat a lot of fresh stuff. I try not to eat processed foods. So if it's, you know, I have a lot of salads, vegetables, and then I try and cook things. So I'll get, you know, buy fish, buy meat, buy whatever, but I'll cook it myself.
Nice.
I keep stuff pretty simple.
So am I right in saying so far it sounds paleo-ish?
Ish.
Yeah, I don't want to put a dirty term on it for you.
I might change in a second.
Okay.
So anything I eat, I try to do that. Occasionally it doesn't work, right?
Yep.
I do have one processed thing in my very processed thing in my diet pretty much every day, because I have Huel.
Okay.
To get in,
Oof.
to get in calories, to get in the protein. So I have Huel Black, So it's like 38 grams of protein in that little shake.
What's it
It's
called?
just
Huel
easy.
Black?
Huel Black,
Yeah, okay.
So it's just because it's technically fresh ingredients, but I mean the shelf life on it means that it must have a load of preservatives and things in there, obviously.
I think it's vegan too, isn't it?
But it is vegan.
Poo again,
vegan.
poo.
Yeah,
Get that on camera.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a meat lover. I eat a lot of red meat.
Yeah.
So it depends what you believe. Like I don't think pretty lean red meat. I'll eat a lot of it.
I'm the same.
Multiple times a week. I've got no problem with that. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah. So again, it's cooked. It's like mince I like just because it's easy. So I have a lot of mince. I can eat plain food. I'm not one to do like elaborate cooking. So it's like make a huge salad, loads of different vegetables and fruit in there. Make a load of meat. I'll double up on the meat, and then I won't have like rice or potato or anything like that.
Yeah.
I tend not to have that. Protein, I have in the mornings. I have like I'll take 500 grams of Greek yogurt, protein powder in there.
Living the dream, that is. They call that, what do they call that? Like an urban Sunday, that
A
one.
little whack in the protein, yeah. A scoop of protein powder, collagen powder, creatine in there.
All right, cool. So yeah, you're super on the health kick.
I,
Did you do any fasting by any chance?
No fasting.
Nothing. Oh, you're like almost
I'm hungry all the time.
Is that right? Yeah. No, I'm one. The reason I ask, because I'm a hungry guy all the time. My appetite's huge for the size of me. Like my appetite's off the chart. But I've done several 3-day fasts.
Yeah. Good. Do you feel good after that?
Mentally, you feel unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like I'm
I can
sharp.
believe it.
And you feel clean. The worst day's the second day because you're hungry. You know, you're not eating that day. It's probably part of it. But you're also like, I've got to the end of a 3-day fast. I think I've done 6 of them, thinking about it. And I think at 2 of them, I came to the end of my 3 days and I'm getting ready to sort of start preparing the food. And I'm half thinking, fuck it, should I do 5? I feel that good. And as I say,
you've never gone, but you've never gone to the
never gone further. And the reason I didn't go further on them 2, one of them I was getting on a flight, so I didn't want to get sick and have to deal with all that shit. And the other one I was, I think I was teaching like back-to-back classes in jiu-jitsu, so I didn't want to be. I just wanted to go, fuck it, let's refuel and let's get ready to go. But the reason I bring it up is because when I do it, I've done it once. I took myself off to like a little old granny. I took myself off to the countryside. Don't talk to me. I'm feeling good. Checked into a nice little hotel.
Love it.
I'm sitting with my getting water and I'm all set. That was the hardest time because I had nothing to do. The times where I've just trained, I've sparred on them days. I've lifted heavy. I did 2-a-day trainings, and then on one of them I did like a heavy gymnastics ring session, 70 hours into 72, and felt great and didn't think about it so much. So my advice to anyone would be just carry on as normal. Do you know what I mean? Because it's only 3 days. Do you know what I mean? Be sensible, be smart, but only 3 days.
Are you supplementing at all?
No, nothing.
Just
so
water.
out
Just
of
like
them,
water,
I think,
nothing.
yep, I've done, I think 2 of them have been purely just water, nothing. 2 of them have been just water, but I've put some salt in the water off a recommendation, so that's really just water as well. Yeah. And 2 of them I've done with black coffee, but no calories. And to be honest, all different types of ways I've done it, don't notice any difference. So, whatever. And the more I've researched into
it's
it,
3 days.
It's 3 days. If you can't get through 3 days, just fucking toughen up, right? Do you know what I mean? And I'm not recommending it to people if you've got like, health issues and you know.
If you can't do 3 days fasting, you heard it here.
you heard it on the Squeeze the Neck podcast. You're not welcome here. No, but like 3 days, you can, assuming you're healthy and everything's clucking for you, you can push through that, can't you? You can get on with it. And but fasting's not for you. You kind of straight away was like, nah.
The thing is, I'm not tough enough.
Is that right? Well, Jesus Christ, man, I've got you on.
No, I think I've never really thought about doing it like that. I know a lot of people that do intermittent fasting quite successfully. For me, I'm just so hungry in the morning that
that's interesting.
I just like to eat.
You do, yeah.
So I'm up at 5.
And you're hungry.
I've eaten. I'll have eggs and I'll have a yogurt thing in the morning. So I've eaten 3 eggs, 500 grams of yogurt, scoop of protein powder by 5:30. And it's like 50 something grams of protein there in the morning,
least,
straight up.
For a minimum,
So I like it like that. I find that works for me. I do like the idea of the mental clarity of it, the challenge of it, and just to do it. I think doing anything once is worth it.
Yeah,
right?
it's cool. And
So
I like the
I might
fasting
give
anyway.
that a try.
With the intermittent, like I wake up in the morning.
No, but I might give yours. I might give
Go
it
for it, yeah, why not?
fast a try.
Because the intermittent stuff I've done for a long time, just out of convenience, really. Like you say, you wake up in the morning, you're hungry. I'm not. So I wake up normally, and I typically eat afternoons, just because, you know, and it's more convenient for me to normally get one training session out of the way and then start eating, versus.
I mean, you can, like, people train all the time on empty stomach.
Yeah,
right?
and I do it just
train
because I feel better,
and train
to be honest.
well.
Yeah.
Whereas I can eat while I train.
Yeah.
I can, no matter what training I'm doing, I can be eating at the same time.
See, I don't have trouble with like digestions and like having to like, I've eaten, I need to rest.
I
and
quite like
fucking wait.
eating at the same time. Maybe
I've
I should
done
say that.
Yeah. Well,
I
to be
quite
honest with
enjoy
you,
it.
back in the day when I didn't know any better, I'd wake up like when I was just doing boxing like 18, 19, 20. I'd get up in the morning, I'd run 5 miles, I'd sink 6 raw eggs, right? And then this would be my training. Oh, sorry, I've said that wrong around. I'd sink 6 raw
and then
eggs
go for
and then
a
run
run.
5 miles or 3 miles, whatever I was doing.
But some people
Fine.
would throw up, right?
Yeah, but I was fine. And now, it ain't the most fun thing in the world to get down, but you can get it, you know? Like, I'm also, make up your own mind on this, whether I did or didn't, I'll let you decide. I was of the generation when Manuel Marquez, you know this guy, the boxer? Fought Floyd Mayweather, a Mexican guy.
Okay.
Anyway, he's famous on a countdown show, pissing in a cup and drinking it as like this makes me strong, you know? So, of course, you're 18, 19, when you see this, you go,
Try that.
well, I didn't say that. I didn't say that, but you make fun. But everyone was doing it. Come on. Well, I mean, maybe I just didn't have a great group of mates. I don't know. But
Hey, you know, the question ultimately becomes: if that increased your performance 10%,
listen, if at the time you told me this would increase my performance by 0.5%, I'd have been drinking everybody's piss.
Well,
You piss in it. You piss in it.
fair enough.
So yes, take us through some of your recovery stuff, mate. Like if you're training, obviously you said every day, pretty much, one way or another.
Yeah, I do something every day. I do very little at the weekend, though.
Yep.
So when I say weekends, more like, I mean, I'll walk a lot.
Yep. So you're
at
active
weekends
anyway.
and stuff. I'm very active, and I'll do some kind of mobility bits at the weekend sometimes. You could argue it's yoga, but I try and keep mobile. I try not to stay in positions. I try and move through them. But the week, 5 days, I train.
Yeah. And what's the recovery on that like? Are you in the saunas and this nothing?
Nothing. I do nothing.
Brilliant.
I used to do, I like a sauna, and I like ice. And I used to always do cold showers.
Yep.
I think the benefit for my body that I notice is zero, for me personally.
Yep.
The benefit, I think, for probably internal and for the mental side is there.
That's interesting, yeah.
But not so much. I don't notice so much difference. If you have, I think if it's a terrible day and I do way too much, then I notice the difference.
Right.
But on the average day, like a cold shower, I don't.
Doesn't do
notice the
enough. Yeah.
difference, no.
That makes sense. I think a lot of people do it out of like, what's the word? Like you're supposed to do it, so you check the box that you did your cold
And again,
shower.
as I said, I think definitely from a point of view of like, your other systems. So what's the word? What is a cold shower affect?
Endocrine system.
Endocrine system. I was gonna say from like
Adrenal system.
from all of the like hormonal perspective and stuff. Yeah, like for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm trying to think now if I don't spend a lot of time rolling. I don't spend a lot of time stretching. I used to spend 20 to 40 minutes a day doing like yin yoga, doing stretching when I was weightlifting, and I was always in pain.
There you
And I found the minute I started doing more weighted stuff that is into more extreme ranges, I don't need as much of that. Again, occasionally I'll do some stuff.
Well, why do you think that is? Is that as simple as because you're strong in them ranges so your body can go there?
Yeah, I think I try and build my joints to be stronger stronger than they need to be in two ranges. So if I don't go that far, they're pretty good.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think it's really hard to say. Building mobility or building range, so stretching and having the ability to say do a standing like forward fold over, right? You're building a load of range through. So if that's your hips and you're coming over, the range through like the back chain, like the hamstrings, calves, everything up, glutes, lower back is intense. But if you Jefferson curl, you're loading that, so it's getting strong in that range.
Yeah.
So I think then if you start straining those muscles in shorter ranges than that, they strain tendons, ligaments in shorter ranges, they tend to withstand it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the loading helps.
Yep.
An interesting, really interesting, an interesting ramble. I built much more mobility doing loaded stretching than I ever did in the years doing static stretching.
Yeah, I believe that. I've seen that many times.
Way more.
Yeah.
Again, I'm still quite tight to the posterior chain, but it's getting way better.
Nice.
Loading it.
Yeah. That's cool, man. So you obviously on this ATG, on this AGT,
Yep.
ATG journey and stuff. Where's this sort of go, man? What do you want to do with this? Do you want to have sort of your own thing, your own gyms, your own platform?
So I'm moving more online to try and coach online.
Yep.
So it's not a bit different to PT, where it's more about also education. I like teaching people stuff. So, and again, I like to ramble, but I like to get the information of why you're doing what you're doing, like how to, for yourself, work out what might be a problem or how to try and address the issues that we come up with, or how you can train in order to stay healthy as you age. Even not like if you're 20 and you're training in the right way, you're going to perform in your sport better and for longer. So it's like all of that. But I think like doing it as an online coach, it's going to allow me to address a larger amount of people. So yeah, just teaching online, still programming, nuanced programming for people. So still working with them and helping them progress. But yeah, more that way. So I am my own company in essence. In that, like it's not I wouldn't own a gym. It's never really been my.
I think that's a headache that you don't need, right?
Yeah.
Owning your own gym.
I mean, great if you can, great if you do. I'm thankful to all the gym owners because ultimately, like, we got to come in and we got to do stuff, right? And, but I don't have to do it then, so that's great for them. But I think that's that's it. It's just like education. Oh. Can we get as many people as possible moving well and kind of as comfortably as they can be, right? So that we also negate a lot of the unhealthy habits that we all have.
And is that your target audience, more sort of normal people per se versus athletes, or?
In theory, I should have one, because they say you should be as specific as possible, because the more specific you are, the better you can like hone in on a market. But I don't like to separate too much, because I train everyone the same, principally.
Yep.
An athlete needs different things depending on their sport, and they need to do different imbalances to balance out against different imbalances, but ultimately the movements are the same, and they're going to train harder and more and so on. But ultimately, like, everyone needs the same ability around their joints. So, you need that same structural integrity. So I train everyone the same. So it doesn't really matter to me. I just want to help as many people as possible, ultimately.
That's cool. I like that.
If they want to be helped.
Yeah, well, hey, that's a whole nother that might be episode 2, that one. But we're so here's little sort of thought experiment for you, if you like. So I come to you, I say to you, listen, man, money's no object, whatever. I want to train with you as much as I need to. Time, I'll come to you, whatever. Fix me, make me the best I can be. I haven't got any particular injuries, but I just want to be able. I want to see how strong, athletic, pain-free, etc., I can be. Over to you. What's Monday look like for me?
Tough question. I would still want to watch your movements.
Yeah, so of course. Yeah,
I would still be like, get in. Let's see how you feel on. I mean, I think if you've got no issues and you came in straight away, I would probably smack you on a sled.
Okay. Forward or backwards?
Both.
Oh, okay.
I would just make you sled yourself and see how you handle it.
Sorry, I've just got to cut in here because I want to ask you an important question. We'll carry on. With the sleds and stuff, like a lot of people don't have access to a sled, right? You go in the gym. Backward treadmill, full incline, walking on it. So yes or no?
The treadmill, I wouldn't put the incline because... Oh, do you mean forwards walking on the treadmill? Or what
both.
Do you mean?
Yeah, both. So instead of a sled, I meant sort of put it uphill, face forward, face backwards, walk up.
I wouldn't... I mean, forward walking is different to backwards walking.
Okay.
I would do... If it's a normal gym treadmill, flat treadmill.
Flat, okay.
Keep it off and
Just
push the belt.
it, yeah. Okay.
Because you want that like drive where you can like roll toe to heel and then drive off. So you get that activation around there. That would be my like go-to.
I got you.
If there's no treadmill, I've walked backwards. When at the weekend I don't come into the gym. I walk backwards at the weekend all the time, just randomly. I'll just I'll be going somewhere and I'll walk backwards for a bit.
Just like morning.
People look at you funny, but it's just, when I'm doing it outside like that, I kind of rotate. So I'll do like backwards for a bit and then I'll rotate and go forwards. And I look like an absolute nutter. But you know, fortunately, no one's really said anything. This is London after all. So like that is fine as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd get on that treadmill and push. Some gyms don't like that, then
go to another gym, fuck them.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can, there's other ways to get that activation in, but yeah, I would go treadmill.
Nice.
Boom, boom, boom.
I got you.
5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Oh, really? Yeah, okay. Just pump it. Are you looking for a burn on that to really feel the blood getting in, or?
Depends what you want to use it for. If it's a warm-up, my principle normally goes, if I'm using something like backwards walking as a warm-up, I just want to get it feeling like it's working. I don't want to be like struggling to drive it. And the treadmill's good for that, because the treadmill, it's just like, it's constant and it's light. Sled, for instance, I tend not to warm up with super heavy sled personally. If I'm going to do a leg day and I want to really get them going, I would go heavier personally. Again, it's nuanced to the person and to your preference. But yeah, I'd whack you on a sled. I would get a lot of work out, because we'll be able to see from that also how you respond to quite a large amount of constant work, right, through everything, through your body. And then from there, it would go to like split squat. I mean, this is probably what you'll find a lot of ATG people will say.
Okay.
Put you on the sled, get you on the split squats, see how your split squats are, and initially I'd probably split squat you a hell of a lot to see what we can...
Would you? Yeah.
Where you can, what you can withstand, how it's feeling, how good the movement is, how mobile you are. And then I tend to look at the small. So like there are structural balance values. So Poliquin did a lot of like the structural balance stuff, where it was the percentage value between different movements being important.
Okay.
And then ATG does a similar thing. Some of them are quite similar, some of them they've developed on, but like there's percentages of like how much should you externally rotate percentage of your body weight.
Okay, in terms of the weight and stuff, okay.
How much should you do like dumbbell pullovers in full range? Like,
is this like a target as like what you what a balanced body should be able to do?
Yeah. Roughly, again, it's just all kind of, you can pull around all of the stuff, but ultimately like I would look at all of the small movements and see where they sit within that, because because that will, again, give a good indication of how good your upper body's going to withstand stuff.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can go, okay, we can make those ratios as high as we want.
Yeah, okay.
And then you essentially bias what you're weak at.
Yeah.
If you can externally rotate like 20% of your body weight really well, there's no point doing external rotations all the time. No. Because that's a really high value comparatively.
So you can focus elsewhere and leave that alone, type thing.
So you could then be like, okay, well that's all right. So we'll do it once a week, just a little bit, just to keep it in. But like, say then something else is really like low.
Your tib raise is terrible.
Or then you can do a hell of a lot more of that movement.
Yeah.
So that's where structural balance values come in quite well. I give away everything.
That's all right. Yeah. No. But so like, I should have asked you is like, if I come to you and I say, I'll do whatever you want. How many times a week should I train with you, George? How many times? What should I do? How many? You tell me. Is it like 3 times a week a standard kind of protocol?
3 is minimum.
Minimum. Okay.
Whether you have to train specifically with, so some trainers believe, you can only train with me. Like every time you come in the gym, you should be with me training you. Also because I do a lot of online stuff, I've kind of branched into the fact that you probably don't necessarily need the trainer with you all the time, depending on your level and what you need. But 3 times a week of training is probably a minimum. Yeah. I would say. It's the regularity, right? Can you have that regularity and that consistency to get results? Mm-hmm. The more you have that with the ability to recover, the more the quicker and the better the results can be.
Yep.
if you're having twice a week, sometimes those gaps you can still make gains, but they're really slow. If you're doing once a week, your body just doesn't have, it's not regular enough really to make gains. You'll get some benefit, of course, because it's just will be very minimal.
Yeah.
I recommend like 4 times a week of training is probably
It's a good starting point.
It's a good start. Again, some people like to train 5 days, 6 days.
8 days.
Yeah, I was listening to the Beatles yesterday, actually. Incidentally.
Showing your age there, bro. Jesus Christ. But so if we was to go from there, mate, like I'll tell you what, maybe we'll do some training together. I'll go through a program with you, and we'll get some content for this, and we'll sort of like go through it. But going forward, mate, obviously you said like what your goals and stuff are. But if you was to work with sort of anyone in the world, I'm asking you a bit of a fantasy question, like one of them sit down and who would you have dinner with bullshit questions, but I'm going to do it anyway. If you could work with one person that's sort of out there, is there someone that comes to mind?
To coach them specifically, or to work with them as in learn from them and mentor?
Oh, I meant the first, but we go both.
Oh.
Okay. They're
both
both great.
bizarre.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, I meant the first, but let's see what we come up with.
It would be a real. Those questions are so difficult.
I know. Yeah, that's why I asked it, bro.
Picking any athlete who had real longevity and stayed at the top for a long time, I think would be super telling. More from being, not just because like coaching them would be fun and interesting just because it's cool to coach people, but the knowledge you can gain. Like how did, like Usain Bolt was top of his game for a long time. Roger Federer, again, and they both stayed relatively injury like free for a long time in their careers, where a lot of athletes tend not to. Like anyone like that would be.
Do you know who Bernard Hopkins is, the boxer?
No, see, this is what I was, when I messaged you the other day, I was trying to say like fighting and boxing, fighting stuff is not in my.
No, but this would be great.
It's never been in my world. So,
but it's almost better that you don't, because you've got the outside view on how to look after a body. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was almost like, I've got to ask him now. Yeah. But Bernard Hopkins was a world champion boxer for years and years. He had like a 30-plus pro career. He retired when he was 52, and he was still fighting at the top level. So he came to mind when you said like someone.
But someone like that, like again, like what do they know?
Yeah.
Are they an anomaly, or is it their training? And I think at some point when you start getting older and you are like doing anything at a high, like intense high level, it stops being a genetic anomaly and it has to start being training. Yeah,
it has to be something to do with it. Yeah,
because in everything I've ever like experienced, that has been it. It's like, in your 20s, in your teens and 20s, genetics play more of an important role. Once you get past that, how you train starts to really become important. So anyone, again, I just can't think of anyone off the top of my head. Any athlete that stayed at the top for a long time or had a recovery where they went away and came back and were top would be fascinating to work with. Really fascinating. Otherwise, someone who just gets broken all the time.
I was going to say, one end of the
you want to go one end of the spectrum, right? So, like, who's constantly injured, and then, like, can I fix them?
Darren Anderton comes to mind. Do you know who Darren Anderton is?
No.
Darren Anderton was a footballer. He played for Tottenham. He played for a few teams, but Tottenham, I think, was the main team. And when I was a kid, he was a pro. And it was like, if you was ever injured or you ever had something wrong with you, ever had a cold, your finger hurt, anything, oh, shut up, Darren Anderton. He was like a meme before memes were a thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, he'd probably be a fun one to work with, because I think walking up the stairs, that guy got injured, So he'd be good.
I mean, a lot of footballers, right, get re-injured and re-injured and re-injured.
Yeah, it seems to be once they get injured, it's like a constant thing.
That would be, again, just, fascinating. Mentor-wise, I don't know. That's an impossible question.
We'll save that for part 2 when we come back here. We'll get him again.
There's so many people I'd love to sit down with.
Well, before I finish up, normally I ask people some fun questions about fighters and football teams and stuff. I'm assuming this might be quite a short section in this one.
For me, both of those are going to be really tough, because they're not sports that I grew up with and had a lot around me. So they're also not something I've really.
That's cool. We'll dip back into football at the end, and I'll help you out with that one. I always give people whatever. But so I'm assuming the sports where you're from, South Africa, I'm assuming rugby was a thing.
Rugby was a big thing.
Good. Who's your rugby hero? We'll go that one instead.
I quite like Francois Pienaar.
Never heard of him. No, I'm joking. Of course I have. But he's a World Cup winning captain.
World Cup winning captain. Just he was, he came across a really nice guy.
Did he?
And he was around at a time that there was a lot of like, I mean, if you've watched, was it Invictus?
Yeah, that's the only reason I know who he is, to be honest with you.
I mean, I don't know how true all of that is, but I mean, like, at the time, the country was in that kind of that turmoil, and I was there, and I can remember, and it was our first World Cup. It was the first time we were allowed in a World Cup. It was a big deal for us.
It's the first time it was going pro as well, I think, right? Was that when
So that was great, great to see, and I remember him, and who was the number 10? Who was the fly off? Oh.
No idea.
I can't remember.
You're speaking to the wrong guy here, bro.
I can't remember off the top of my head. But again, it would be, some in that generation for me. Pienaar's probably. I mean, Pienaar's famous. So it's easy for me to remember him. Because
Matt Damon, we call him.
Matt Damon. He did the right job, actually. That would be it, I think. I don't know anything too much outside of South African rugby anyway.
That's cool.
Either, so.
Maybe we'll ask a bit about that quickly before we finish up. Like, what was that like growing up in South Africa in that sort of time? That would have been apartheid time, right, when you was growing up?
Yeah, so I got the very end. I was very young while there was still
so it wasn't
proper stuff in the apartheid going on. So I don't remember much. My family was very anti. They pushed against it. They were not. It wasn't something that was put in front of me very often.
Okay.
So you can say, it was shielded, and maybe shielded purely because of where I was in society. But again, my parents were very much against it. My family, in general, was very much in the protest and the trying to end apartheid side of things. So it was never something that was big for me. I didn't really have any idea of it until I got a bit older, and then by then it was the actual element of it had as a thing was gone. Once I can kind of start to remember, because Mandela was released from prison, and then the election, and he was president. I can remember all of that.
Oh, you can, yeah, okay.
That time I can remember, but much before all of that is.
Yeah, too young to get into.
Just too young to be aware of what was going on. I mean, I can remember. I don't want to get into politics and stuff. I can remember having no one of color in my school.
Really?
For my first 3 years of junior school, first, second, third. What would be first, second, third grade. In third grade, I had the first person, black girl, come into my class.
Yeah.
And I can remember that because it was quite a big thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a drama thing, but it was a big thing. Yeah. So I can remember that, but otherwise not too much.
And what was your background? Was you English speaking or Afrikaans?
English speaking.
English speaking, yeah. That's quite rare. I've never met one of you guys before. So welcome to England, bro. English speaking, they always say Afrikaans.
I think that's the Dutch. If you came from the Dutch influence, I came from British, Scottish, and German, actually.
Well, we'll keep the Scottish and German side of it quiet, mate. You can just have the English bit. We'll call it a day there, I think. But as I say, before we finish up, I was having a bit of fun with people, mate, about their football team. Do you have a football team? You've been in long enough.
You're not going to like the answer to
this. Tell me the answer.
Because I have the same football team I had when I was in South Africa.
Okay.
Man United.
Bro, come on. You can do better.
But I don't actually support them because I don't really watch.
Well, we'll give you another one today. There's a team from South London. I think they start with a C. They play in blue. Maybe you can help me out here.
No.
Jesus Christ, bro. We're struggling today, huh?
I'm Chelsea. I'm not.
There, well done.
No. I said no for the Chelsea, not for the no. I don't know who it is. I'm not, no.
Brilliant.
Not for me. But Man U was my team.
Very good. I'm up in Manchester, as I said to you. I'm going up there, so I'm going to do a tour of Old Trafford and the Etihad. Have myself a little Chelsea badge somewhere. Make sure everyone knows what time it is. But we always finish off, mate. Always stick our fists up like this. Squeeze the neck. Boom.